Welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. The review you've been asking for, the review you've been waiting for. That's right guys, we'll be looking at Director Krennic today into buy or not to buy, or for some people to gear or not to gear. And we'll also be going on to the good, the bad and the ugly. And finally we'll be giving him the newly review grade. What you're visually seeing on screen at the moment is of a 4-star Director Krennic at Gear 11. We will also compare the stats between a 4-star and a 7-star, and I will also showcase after this one battle, the rest of the battles in this video will be of a 7-star Gear 11. At 7-star Gear 11, Director Krennic is going to have 129 speed, excluding mods, with a 16,826 health. His protection is 16,680, and he also has a 10% health steal. His potency sits above average at the 47% mark, which is very high for a character, and as this character deals only special damage, he has a whopping 3,809 special damage. Let's compare Director Krennic's special damage with another character that uses only special damage attacks, and that would be Emperor Palpatine. Emperor Palpatine at 7-star Gear 11 has a 4,808 special damage compared to Krennic's 3,809. What I'm displaying to you right now is these stats excluding mods for a 4-star Gear 11 Director Krennic. The health sits at 13,766, and that is at a 4-star, so that is just over 3,000 difference between a 4-star and a 7-star. The speed, potency, tenacity and health steal are identical to a 7-star Director Krennic. The big difference I have found, at 4-star he has 2,902 special damage, where at 7-star he has 3,809. This is definitely a huge chunk of a difference, but does it justify a 4-star to a 7-star? We're going to start looking over the abilities before we go on to the good, the bad and the ugly. Director Krennic's basic attack is called Test Their Defenses, where it deals special damage to the target enemy and inflict tenacity down for 3 turns. This basic attack can hit very hard, and it does the damage of what TIE Fighter Pilot can do on his basic also, so it is very powerful indeed at either a 4-star or even a 7-star. His first special ability is called Death Trooper Assault and has a 3-turn cooldown. This deals physical damage to all enemies with a 70% chance to inflict stagger for 2 turns. If any enemies are debuffed, revived Death Trooper with 20% health for each debuffed enemy. If Death Trooper is present, he is called to assist. So let's break this down. What is stagger? It's a new debuff similar to Exposed but removes all turn meter. On top of this special ability will either be used to revive your Death Trooper or to call him to assist. The damage output of this area of attack is quite low, so it will not be doing high damage on the targeted enemies. Director Krennic has a second special ability called Experimental Weaponry, which also has a 3-turn cooldown. This deals physical damage to the target enemy and inflicts a debuff depending on the class of the enemy. Attackers will be stunned, healing and support will receive an ability block, and tanks will receive buff immunity. This is for 2 turns, and if the target is a rebel, also inflicts speed down for 2 turns. This special ability is indeed very interesting because it's allowing you to choose what debuff you're going to be putting on the certain class, and this can definitely determine the tide of a battle. Director Krennic has a leader ability that can also be Zetaed, so we're going to go over the non-Zeta abilities, and this leader ability is called Director of the Advanced Weapons Research. Empire allies gain 25% critical chance and 25% potency. Debuffed enemies who are critically hit during an Empire ally's turn suffer an ability block for 1 turn. This effect can't be resisted. Once 20 Zetas are applied to this leadership, this then has the additional of Empire allies recover 10% protection whenever they score a critical hit. We were previously in a crit meta where Wedge and Biggs controlled the arena with the crits, and what changed that was the amount of debuffing characters that came onto the scene, and also on top of that you've got characters like General Kenobi that is making his presence known within the arena with his crit immunity and his taunt. And then on top of that you've also got Shore Trooper that can provide crit immunity to the entire team. So this leadership ability highly relies on Empire scoring critical attacks. Director Krennic also comes equipped with a unique called Immeasurable Power. Director Krennic gains 10% critical damage for each debuffed enemy and 10% critical damage for each rebel enemy. If Death Trooper is present, he also gains these bonuses. Again, we have a unique that is heavily relying on critical attacks. He also receives another unique, and that is from the Death Trooper with Krennic's Guard. Whenever Death Trooper scores a critical hit, he and Director Krennic recover 15% health. Death Trooper also has a 50% chance to gain 50% turn meter whenever Director Krennic takes damage. However, if you were to go on and Zeta this unique, Death Trooper then has a 50% chance to gain 100% turn meter whenever Director Krennic takes damage, and that health recovery turns into a 20% total, and also Director Krennic can't be critically hit while Death Trooper is alive. This is definitely a very interesting and powerful unique where it's given this character that doesn't have much protection, much health, that crit immunity while Death Trooper is alive, and any attacks that come to Director Krennic, Death Trooper is also going to gain that turn meter. So we've gone through the stats of the character, we've gone through the comparison, and we've also gone through his abilities. Now let's have a look in the Smithie D terms, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Director Krennic has some great and unique synergy with the Death Trooper. He also comes with a brand new debuff, Stagger, and he's also able to inflict 4 other types of debuff that include Tenacity Down, Ability Block, Buff Immunity, and Stun. This character is a anti-rebel and will do the job versus those menacing rebels in your arena shard. He is very, very good and has some very great traits against rebels. Director Krennic fits right at home under a Darth Vader Zeta leadership or even an Emperor Palpatine leadership. He is also a support character that can hit very hard. So we've gone over the good, now let's have a look at the bad. His leadership is very underwhelming compared to the likes of Emperor Palpatine or even a Zeta Darth Vader. This has no turn meter manipulation and relies too much on critical attacks. Under his own leadership, he has 129 speed, which is going to cause you a real problem in the arena, and that especially more on defense, because you've got that Darth Vader Zeta that can reduce turn meter, then you've also got that Emperor Palpatine that gives that turn meter gain, where Krennic, as his leadership, gives none of these, so having him at a lower speed is really going to be damaging on your defense. The arena has a large variety of different teams, and the counters to this leadership directly fall with General Kenobi and his crit immunity. You also have Shore Trooper, and if that wasn't enough, a Rex leadership that gains turn meter for the entire team from crits and is also able to put tenacity up and cleanse. That's also not taken into the concept that you've also got a Qui-Gon Jinn Zeta leadership, and you've also got running around the Darth Maul Zeta, which are easily counters to this leadership. The Pacific kit that Krennic has looks like it's not going to be usable versus the Ranker. If it does follow suit with the Stagger being like Shock, then the Ranker is going to be immune to this, and this is going to be the same as the AAT. So this then makes his value of a character diminish quite a bit. He currently has no use in starships, and at most he's useful in Galactic War and can be useful in the arena. This would purely be under an Emperor Palpatine lead or a Darth Vader Zeta. So we've gone over the good, we've gone over the bad, now let's have a look at the ugly. Director Krennic relies too much on the presence of Death Trooper. Unlike the Death Trooper that can go wild in many squads, without Director Krennic being there, Director Krennic cannot. Without the presence of Death Trooper, Krennic is not going to receive that heal, nor will he receive crit immunity once the Death Trooper is Zetaed, and if he doesn't receive these abilities, Krennic is nothing different than another squishy character. If you are wanting to take your Krennic beyond the 4-star level, he is only available in these Citadel packs, and they are priced at 2,999 crystals. From the experience of my friend, it took him 8 volts of crystals to take both his Krennic and his Death Trooper to 7 stars. This is no indication of a price tag. Some have got Krennic with less volts, others have got Krennic with more volts. Like many of the Rogue One characters, this character in particular is absent from the Chromium or the shipments. Baze and Shore Trooper are both obtainable from the main shipments at 320 crystals per 5 shards. In my opinion, the Citadel pack is very high for what the contents contain. I really would like to see an alternative to picking up Director Krennic and Death Trooper, even if this was put into Chromium packs or even if they were put into the main shipments. So we've gone over the good, we've gone over the bad, and we've gone over the ugly. So finally, we have come to the time where Smithie D is going to grade this character that we've reviewed so far. This grade is solely on the character and does not include Death Trooper. With his lack of usefulness in the AAT, the pit and starships, how to obtain them, the requirement of running Death Trooper by his side, and if this character was a free-to-play character in the Cantina node, this character probably wouldn't be a character that I would rush out and get. In my opinion, his leadership is okay at best, and there is lots of other alternatives that are great counters against him. However, as expected, he works great under a Palpatine lead, and he also can work well with a Darth Vader Zeta, but he does not put any dots down, so Darth Vader's leader ability that reoccurs the dots will not take any benefit from him being there. On top of this, if you were to run Krennic, you would need to run Shore Trooper by his side. None of these two characters can auto-taunt or cleanse, so it does leave you with a predicament of who you're putting into your team. There is also not a huge difference between a 4-star and a 7-star Krennic, so I've decided to give Director Krennic a C. He is not game changing, and in my opinion, he's not a must have. So what's your thoughts? Did you enjoy this video today? Did you find it helpful? Did it give you a clear insight into Director Krennic? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching my video today, and if you could do me a big massive favour and use your force powers of yours to give me the thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, then please definitely do that. I release content more or less on a daily basis. I'm the Smithie D, may the force be with you, always.